I learned to be invisible at TechVance Solutions long before I realized how useful that skill would become. My name is Maya Chen, and for 18 months, I was the most underestimated person in a company I secretly co-owned. Not because I tried to hide, but because when you're a 28-year-old Asian woman in tech who doesn't fit the founder stereotype, people make assumptions, and I let them. It started 3 years ago when my godfather, Marcus Webb, called me with an opportunity that would change my life. Marcus had been my father's best friend since college, the man who taught me to code when I was 12, who paid for my MIT education when Dad's medical bills consumed everything we had, who sat beside me at Dad's funeral and promised he'd always look out for me. Maya, he said that Tuesday afternoon, his voice carrying the excitement of someone half his 55 years. I'm doing it. I'm finally starting the company we always talked about, the one your dad and I dreamed up over beers and napkin sketches 20 years ago. My heart clenched. Dad had died 2 years earlier, his brilliant mind silenced by cancer before he could see his vision become reality. He'd been a software engineer ahead of his time, always talking about AI-driven project management systems that could revolutionize how teams worked. I want you in, Maya, not as an employee, as a founding partner. I need your technical skills, your fresh perspective, and honestly, I need to honor the promise I made to your father. He'd want you to build this with me. Marcus, I don't have capital to invest. Your sweat equity is worth more than money. I've got the funding from my previous exit. What I need is someone who understands the code, who can build what we're imagining, who believes in this mission. 25% equity, vesting over 4 years. But Maya, there's one thing I need you to consider. He paused, and I could hear him choosing his words carefully. The venture capital world is complicated. When they see a 55-year-old white guy who's had 2 successful exits, they write checks. When they see a young woman, even one as brilliant as you, they ask questions. They doubt. They demand proof. I'd heard this story before. Lived it, actually, in every computer science class where professors called on male students first, every interview where I was asked if I could handle the technical requirements. I'm not asking you to hide, Marcus continued, but I am suggesting that we keep the ownership structure quiet until we're established. You'll be listed as senior engineer on paper, reporting to me as CEO. Behind the scenes, we're equal partners building this together. Once we have traction, revenue, proof of concept, we reveal the truth and you step into your rightful role. It felt wrong. It felt like accepting the discrimination instead of fighting it. But I also understood the game. I'd watched brilliant women get passed over for funding, while mediocre men raised millions on ideas scribbled on cocktail napkins. How long are we talking? 18 months, 2 years maximum, just until we're profitable and stable. I thought about my father, about the dreams he'd shared with Marcus over all those years, about the opportunity to build something meaningful, to prove myself, not through words, but through undeniable results. Okay, I said, but I want it in writing. Contract, vesting schedule, everything. Already had the lawyers draft it. You'll own 25% with options to increase to 30% once we hit our first revenue milestone. Equal say in all major decisions. This is a partnership, Maya, just a quiet one for now. That conversation was 3 years ago. The quiet partnership had stretched longer than either of us planned, but TechVance had grown faster than we dreamed. We'd secured Series A funding, hired a team of 30, and built Project Pulse, an AI-powered project management platform that was changing how companies worked. And through it all, I remained Maya Chen, senior engineer, the quiet one who kept her head down, shipped excellent code, and watched as others took credit for the architecture I'd designed from the ground up. The morning everything changed started like any other Wednesday. I arrived at the office at 7 a.m., 2 hours before most of the team, because that's when I did my best work, in the silence before the performance began. The open floor plan office was empty except for the hum of servers and the coffee maker I'd started brewing. I settled at my desk in the back corner, the spot I'd chosen specifically because it kept me out of sight, and pulled up the code base for the feature I'd been developing. "Oh, you're here early." I looked up to find Brendan Pierce, our VP of Engineering, standing over my desk with his signature condescending smile. Brendan was everything I wasn't: confident, loud, a white guy from Stanford who'd failed upward through 3 startups before landing at TechVance. Marcus had hired him 8 months ago over my objections, but I had learned to pick my battles. "Just getting some work done before the stand-up," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "Right, about that." He perched on the edge of my desk uninvited, forcing me to lean back to maintain personal space. "We need to talk about the Atlas project." My stomach tightened. The Atlas project was our biggest initiative yet, a complete overhaul of Project Pulse's core architecture that would position us to compete with industry giants. It was also built entirely on the framework I'd designed and pitched to Marcus 6 months ago. "What about it?" "Well, we've decided to move forward with a dedicated team structure, high visibility, all hands on deck, huge bonus potential. We're talking 15 grand per person if we hit our Q3 launch deadline." "That's great. I've been working on the foundational architecture, so I can—" "Actually," Brendan interrupted, his smile never wavering, "we're going in a different direction with the tech leadership. I'm bringing in some senior people from my previous company, guys who've done this before, who know how to move fast without getting bogged down in perfectionism." The implication was clear: not you. "Brendan, I designed the core framework for Atlas. I know this system better than anyone." "And that's exactly why we need you to stay focused on maintenance and bug fixes. Someone has to keep the lights on while the A-team builds the future, right?" He laughed like we were sharing a joke. "Besides, this project is going to require a lot of late nights, weekend work, and FaceTime with investors and clients. It's pretty demanding stuff." The subtext was deafening. Not senior enough, not experienced enough, not, though he'd never say it directly, male enough or white enough to be trusted with high-stakes work. "Who's on the team?" I asked, even though I could already guess. "Me, obviously. Tyler, Jake, and Connor from engineering, Stephanie from product. We're keeping it lean and aggressive." He stood, straightening his hoodie, the startup uniform that somehow looked visionary on him, but unprofessional when I wore the same thing. "Don't worry, Chen. There'll be other opportunities for you to step up. Maybe next time." He walked away before I could respond, leaving me staring at my screen where my Atlas architecture diagrams still glowed with possibilities that would now be claimed by someone else. I should have said something, should have walked into Marcus's office and reminded him of our agreement, of my ownership stake, of the fact that I designed every line of code they'd be building on. But I didn't, because I'd learned something over the past 18 months. Sometimes the best revenge is patience. Sometimes you let people dig their own graves while you stand back with the shovel. The Atlas project kicked off with a launch party I wasn't invited to. I found out about it the same way I found out about most things at TechVance, by an overheard conversation or a carelessly open browser tab. Tyler was showing Connor something on his phone at the coffee station, laughing about the open bar Marcus had arranged at some trendy downtown restaurant. "Did you see how much we're getting for this? 15 grand each if we ship on time, plus the VP track if we nail it. Brendan says this is our chance to prove we're more than just code monkeys." Our chance. As if the framework they'd be building was mine. As if the architecture diagrams in their Slack channel weren't modified versions of my original designs. I poured my coffee and returned to my desk, the invisible woman once again. The Atlas team got the conference room with the good natural light and the expensive chairs. They got standing desks and dual monitors and noise-canceling headphones from the company budget. The rest of us, the maintenance crew, as Brendan had called us, kept our standard issue everything in the open floor plan, where anyone could interrupt at any moment. Meetings happened behind glass doors where I could see them gesticulating, drawing on whiteboards, and celebrating small wins with high fives and fist bumps. Sometimes they'd emerge laughing, and the sound would carry across the office like a reminder of everything I'd been excluded from. Maya, can you take a look at this bug in production? Sarah, one of the junior developers, appeared at my desk with her laptop. It's the notification system again. I pulled up the code, diagnosed the problem in 30 seconds, a race condition in the async handler, and walked her through the fix. It took 10 minutes, and when Sarah left, she thanked me profusely for saving her from having to escalate to Brendan. This was my life now. Fixing other people's mistakes, mentoring junior developers who actually appreciated my expertise, and watching the Atlas team take credit for the foundation I'd built. The worst part? Marcus couldn't acknowledge me without raising suspicions. We'd agreed to maintain the facade until the right moment, so our one-on-ones happened early in the morning or after everyone left. In public, he treated me like any other senior engineer, valuable but not exceptional, not a partner. "How are you holding up?" Marcus asked during one of our clandestine 6 a.m. meetings in his office. "I'm fine." I wasn't fine. I was watching everything I'd built being claimed by Brendan and his boys' club, but fine was easier than explaining the daily paper cuts of being excluded. "Brendan sent me his project plan yesterday. The architecture looks familiar." Marcus pulled up the diagrams on his screen, and I saw my work staring back at me with Tyler's name in the author field. "They've made some modifications. Some are good, some are going to cause problems in 3 months when they try to scale." Should I say something? No. The word came out sharper than I intended. This is what we agreed to, right? I stay in the background, prove myself through results, wait for the right moment. "Maya, I never meant for you to be sidelined like this. When I hired Brendan, I thought he'd recognize your talent, include you. You thought he'd be different than every other guy who's ever assumed I'm less capable because I don't look like him." I closed my laptop, suddenly exhausted. "It's fine, Marcus. I'm keeping track. When the time comes to reveal the ownership structure, there will be a lot of people who need to reevaluate their assumptions." The board meeting is in 6 weeks. We're presenting Q3 results and the new organizational structure. That's when we announce you as co-founder and promote you to CTO. 6 weeks. 42 days. I could survive 42